our goal today is to talk about the importance of male role models. Josh, LaBelle, if you'd like to introduce
Yeah,
yourself.
Jose and I know each other working together in the arts. I'm the executive director at Seattle Theater Group. Jose is one of our proud board members, and I'm just super honored to be working in community with you and sort of focus on making the world a better place through the arts together. In terms of family, I'm a proud father of two great, amazing kids, Levi and Julia, and married to an incredible woman named Colleen. Having a special needs kid is also part of the mix in our family.
I noted here that you admired strongly the relationship with your uncle and your dad and your father, and that relationship they had. Because one of the things that we try to spotlight more in our conversations is the need for more positive male influences and traditions. And when I heard of that relationship, to me it was actually, Josh, one of the first times that I publicly heard someone like you or anyone in public figure talking about the importance of their father in role models in life
Yeah.
as a male.
Oh, I could talk a lot about these two. They were real big characters. My dad's name was Ron, and he had two brothers, Donald and Lenny. Donald was my father was the youngest, Donald in the middle, and Lenny is the eldest. They were all three very close. And I would say that my dad was extremely close with his eldest brother. I think sometimes his eldest brother was just looking after his younger brother. There was maybe 10 or 12 years between them. And they actually talked every day, right? So that was a really kind of interesting dynamic to be part of, especially as they grew older and older. Their conversations on the phone were often very short. Just checking in, you good? I'm good. You know, pissed off about this. Can't believe the Lakers lost. All right, talk to you tomorrow. But there's, clearly a lot of love uh, between these guys, and they were both. And I should speak about Donald too, but they were all really just admirable people. There's a word in Hebrew a phrase called tikkun olam, which is sort of like this effort of just you live your life in a way you try to make the world a better place. And I think these guys were really committed to that. My father became a doctor. He was a good role model in lots of directions. But I remember this one time he got a note from a patient who uh, had cancer, and he was the radiologist and was doing some kind of special X-ray on them, and he got a note back from them. And he said, "Hey, sit down. I want to share this with you." The patient basically said, "I just want to thank you because in this hard time, you made me feel so comfortable. And I was really freaking out. I just want you to know how special I felt from the way you were treating me." And my dad looked at me and just said, like, you know what? These are the most meaningful things we get to do, is when we touch a patient in this way. It's not about the money. It's about caring for somebody. And it's rare that doctors get that feedback. And he took the time to show me that. I was like, wow, okay. I've got, half a dozen, you know, moments like that with him that I'll always remember, always.
That made me resonate with some of the amazing work that Seattle Theater Group's doing, Josh. Because when I think of some of the programming that the audience here might not know, and the sensory friendly events, Broadway inclusion programs, Parkinson's for All, these programs that are intentionally made for communities. And from the outsider, there's always been something special to Seattle Theater Group and those programmings. And I think it comes from, I see the ripple effect of your family role models. And that's kind of where I wanted to go with our next segment here is how important fatherhood outings are, and for you and creating those, because I know that's some of the
Oh, yeah.
opportunities I get to see, but I get to meet and see you in person, but seeing you out with your family, or there's this myth I think out there that in theater arts that we hear always the dance mom culture, the dance performing, but I don't think there's enough advocacy to see how important, all genders and dads are just as much encouraged to go out there and dance and try out. So I just wanted to kind
Oh
of
yeah.
segue to that.
It was a big part of my growing up. I had a giant benefit from being able to participate in culture in my family, in many different directions. And I'll include sports with that too, because one of my favorite memories with my dad was he would take me to a lot of Laker games, and it was just our time together, and it was just the two of us. And I remember looking so forward to that, and feeling always really comfortable. We'd go have Chinese food before, and there was just the two of us. You don't know that this is that important until you look back, you know? And then also with my family, we got to go to the theater from time to time. My first piece of theater, as you might not be surprised to hear, was Fiddler on the Roof, because it's a Jewish culture story. Music got into my life in a big way. I went to some concerts with my parents. I actually went to Neil Diamond's Hot August Night, if you could imagine that, at the Greek Theater. Anyways, I think where music and culture really wound up impacting me, and it came from my family, it came from my mother, was playing the drums. And what happened is, I'm an epileptic. I'm on medication and was back then. Sort of you go through some struggles and figuring out, well, what works well, et cetera, et cetera. And my mom had this foresight into saying, like, let's get you playing music. And it's, of course, it started with piano, but it didn't take long for us to migrate to drums. And as soon as I migrated to the drums, I promise you, I'm not bullshitting. My my neurohead, my epilepsy got so much better. I'm saying like an easy 25, 30% better. I got some lessons, and I started banging away every day from probably the point of when I was about 11 on. I played every day, and I still play today, and I still find the clarity and the benefit.
You made me reflect back. I myself suffer from anxiety, and when I discovered the trombone, it was the first time I felt like I can
Oh,
get that physical release, because I was always ADHD and sitting there in class. But when I
yeah.
realized I was having my trombone lesson, like coming, all my day focus was that. I get inspired with some of this programming that you have created. I have benefited taking my daughter who has ADHD and some of these opportunities where I didn't personally feel comfortable in exposing her to, because I thought, she'll be a distraction. But seeing how important having those outings and creating those spaces have been monumental. I do a birthing class. Not sure if I shared this with you, Josh, but I encourage young expecting fathers to start thinking about these outings already. And I try to call them rituals, so that they start thinking of every opportunity to do a one-on-one ritual with your child.
There is something sacred about the time that we get to spend together, uh, as families, as one-on-one with your kids. When it's working, it feels sacred to me. And that's kind of the ritual thing I think that you're tapping on. For my son and I, my son Levi, who has intellectual disability, he has an unusual thing called GRIA 1. But one of our favorite things to do is, ride the light rail trains together. We get on, we don't know where we're going, and that's like half the fun. And we just go on the train and we race the cars. We pretend that we're racing the cars, or he'll wind up talking to people and telling them what's at each stop or whatever. I think March 28th is the opening of the train going across the water. we're going to find our way there on that day and try to be some of the first people getting across the water on the 90. But it really does go back to some of the stuff that I think I did experience with my dad. It really is more powerful than I understood at the time. Don't you remember, like, sometimes also, like, your parents, like, maybe nagging you, or like, no, you're not going out tonight because we're doing this.
Oh,
And this is
so true.
important. This is important, right? Kind of nearing that time with my daughter now, because she's 15. She's going to start driving next month, Jose. And yeah, and it's like, okay, well, hold on. You know, you're not leaving us every night. We're still going to do Shabbat. We're still going to do these different things together. And she's gonna complain and kvetch about it, but it's gonna be okay.
And it's a saying that we've all been told at one point, usually in our adolescence when we're pissing off our parents, and they usually hold a finger to you and say, wait till you become a parent. When I was holding my oldest, it was like 6 months of her age, and I was bawling. And I called my mom, my grandma, who helped, upbringing, raise me, and I called them and I was in tears and I said, Tita, Mom, I finally get it. I finally get what you were saying. I'm sorry for sneaking out, cussing you out, not wanting to be there to hang out with you for dinner, thinking that, my little high school friend that I don't have a relationship was more important than hanging out with you. You reflect back now and being like, man, those moments now are what I hope to have enough positive influence with my daughters and create such rituals that, kind of like you're saying, Josh, how food outings in a simple train ride is not just that, it's a whole bonding life
Totally.
glue.
I also say, like, for me, being a dad, I mean, my wife will, like, vomit hearing me say this probably, but I feel like I learn how to be a better and better parent from observing her. And I know not everybody has, a partner or a wife or a partner or a husband and whatnot. But I've certainly benefited because there's something that she does so naturally that I sometimes just feel like like I'm like I'm not coordinated, or I fumble all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? You ever
Yeah.
feel that way? Feel a little awkward, like, huh? How did you just get that to happen? Like 1, 2, 3. It's a tone of voice sometimes. I don't know. It's a certain touch, particularly with our youngster Levi. Colleen's been just a giant inspiration in my fatherhood.
And I love that your vulnerability too to share that, because I think one of the things that I'm learning every day is that my parents never showed me vulnerability, and I'm learning with my daughters what actually helps when we have our heated discussions or our heated disagreements, when I actually bow down and realize that I'm wrong, and I observe how I messed up and voice that. It's been the most rewarding with our relationship and trusting each other. I went from seeing my daughter, who didn't see herself capable of being in choir, to just last week on her own, this little girl told me, Dad, I tried out for a play. So when I go back in her upbringing, I'm just in awe, hoping that she can go back and say, hey, it was actually my dad who pushed me to go to theater arts, and not my mom. So that's kind of why I'm enjoying that. I'll take that branding, that I'm that dance mom, dance dad.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you say that, because a couple days ago, our daughter was giving my wife and I just some very polite grief, like, hey, especially me, like, hey, you got to let me know more when, these songwriters labs and the opportunities for, the Fifth Avenue musical theater stuff is happening, because you're holding me back if you don't tell me about this stuff. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, okay, awesome. It's all under her skin now. This is terrific. And yeah, I got to do a better job and, like, email her now, I guess, too, right? It's an honor to be able to do this in the arts in the community and be a dad through it all, you know? It's a lot to
Well,
balance, but it's like, what else are we gonna do, dude? You know? Like, go drink beer in the park? Like, no, come on.
thank you for being a wonderful role model father figure and leader in our community, because we need more strong father role models like yourself.
Right back at you, and thank you so much for this opportunity to chat. It's an honor to work with you and be friends here.